Merle, and I am the weekend desk manager and generalized assistant at the Historical Museum.
Yes, she's amazing. So today we're going to walk you through our basement collection storage and just kind of talk about the situation in there. So here we go.
All right.
Boom.
All right, so we're going to go through the magic door. And the first thing that we see as we come in, over here on our left, is a frame storage area. So this is one of the places that we store paintings, framed photographs, anything, as you can see, kind of oversized, maybe unwieldy, things that would be difficult to put into a cabinet, but that are still delicate and need to be handled with care.
Yes. And this used to be a lot more cluttered back in the day, but we created some more storage space in the north end of our basement storage that we'll get to in a little bit. Check it out. Some old horse tack up there. All right.
So over here, we have open storage shelves. So open storage is not generally recommended just because, objects that are just out in the open like this, they'll get dusty, they might get bumped. You generally want a little bit more protection for your artifacts than just being out in the open. So in order to try and deal with that, you can see several of the artifacts have dust covers on them. As we get further, we'll see some of them are in boxes. So it's definitely a work in progress to get all of our artifacts properly cared for and protected, but they are off the ground. These shelves are made of wood, which you generally don't want for artifact storage, but they have been covered. Here they've been covered with this very attractive carpet, which we're working on replacing.
I think they called that burnt orange back in the day, didn't they?
Sounds right, yeah. Ted's the art person, not me.
I also grew up in the 80s, so that
Yes.
color looks familiar. 70s. All right,
All right, so right here we've got kind of a cool artifact. We've got a tombstone from, I actually don't know which cemetery, but from a cemetery in Missoula. Those of you who followed along on our artifact bracket that we did in March might recognize it. This was one of the artifacts there. Shout out to our great AmeriCorps leader for doing that.
Emily?
Yep. So, this side we've got the open storage here. Now we're getting to the artifacts that are more in boxes. We've got the pre-made boxes here, and then you can see over there the white boxes, with the ties in the corners there. Those were custom made to fit each artifact that's inside. So if you don't have a box that's the right size, you can just make your own.
This is a little more recent development here. You can see where we put Tyvek to cover up the wood where it contacts with the artifacts. Those are newer boxes that we got ordered. And they're neatly stacked. All right, what's this?
All right, well, this is something kind of cool. So as we take the dust cover off, which the dust covers are mostly just old sheets, so it's nothing fancy, but it does keep the dust and the grime and the germs off, which is the goal.
Yes.
So this cool thing is actually a music player. It's extremely fancy on the inside. And this used to belong to a woman whose name will be familiar to those of you who know Missoula history. It used to belong to a woman called Mary Glein, who was infamous in Missoula's early history for being involved with basically every illicit trade you can think of. She's most known as a madam, so someone who was in charge of prostitution, but she also had a hand in smuggling, in what you might call human trafficking, of bringing railroad workers into the country after the Chinese Exclusion Act.
Yes.
She was an extremely important figure in Missoula's history.
Mother Glein.
Yep. There's a building named after her. So we are very lucky to have been able to have this beautiful box donated to us.
It's a fancy Swiss made, very high end for the time music box. It plays 12 different classical airs like Bellini, Donizetti, Verdi, Mozart. And when the gentlemen were waiting in the parlor to meet with their escort, they would listen to this music box
Very
back
classy.
in the 1890s, turn of the century. Mary Gleim, we would love to find a photograph of her, but we have yet to. She's in the newspaper all the time. If you go into the Missoulian archives, she was always beating someone up, usually, in the newspaper for one thing or another, or having someone beat up. She was a very interesting, entrepreneurial person. And women did not have many options back in the day, so she owned many buildings on Front Street. She was part owner of a brick factory, etc., etc. Love Mary Gleim.
If you want to know about Mary Gleim, ask Ted.
Yeah.
Here we've got a sign that was in the Missoula Mercantile, which is now the Marriott Hotel building.
Yeah. We got a lot of Missoula Mercantile artifacts when that was coming down, or when they closed up, actually. Okay.
All right, so let's keep going.
This is from the Uptown Diner.
Oh.
If anyone remembers the Uptown Diner, that's where the Radius Gallery is now. I used to like to go there for an omelet. Okay.
So over in here we have cabinets rather than open shelving. These
Yes.
are museum-grade cabinets. They were donated to us, I believe. And inside, if I can actually get the door open. Inside, as you can see, there's a bunch of shelves. And these shelves are on rollers, so they get pulled out so that we can actually get to the artifacts in the back.
It's a beautiful dollhouse.
It really is.
Very intricate.
So artifacts stored in cabinets don't necessarily need to be covered. Some of the more delicate ones, like this set of... some of the more delicate artifacts are still either boxed or covered in cloth, but they don't necessarily have to be. It's not necessarily dangerous for artifacts to just be sitting on the shelf like this because the cabinets are closed and sealed. We do have archival quality foam that we like to put on the bottom of each shelf just to minimize the amount of contact that the artifacts have with the metal.
Is that a butter churn?
Probably.
Let's see. Sorry, my glasses are...
Bread mixer? I believe that's
Bread
a
mixer, yes. That's right.
Artifact tags are really important. So on every artifact tag, there's the individual ID number of the artifact and then a description of what it is.
Yeah.
Because objects from history is a very vague category. And a lot of things, we just don't really know what they are. So we do the research and then we write it down.
Did you catalog, is this the nurse's bag that we found? That was full of stuff and needed to be meticulously cataloged, do you
I don't
remember?
know if it's that one or if it's one of the ones behind.
And
It was the
very
first
much-
project I did as an intern.
yes. Builds character. Meticulous cataloging of a variety of small objects. You learn a lot.
You really do. Dubious medical history.
Yeah.
So you want to reclose and seal the cabinets every time you're done using it. You just don't want to run the risk of accidentally leaving it open.
No.
That defeats the whole purpose of the cabinet.
Yes. These are perfect for preserving artifacts. Moving along.
So down here we have a toy storage area. This room isn't necessarily divided by topic, but we do have a very extensive collection of toys. So we've tried to congregate them all.
There's
in
a
this
game
section.
called Probe. I wonder
Oh.
what that's about. I don't remember that one. Okay.
So let's take a look inside another cabinet, because that's always the fun part of visiting storage, is looking inside the cabinets.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So this one is kind of a cool cabinet because Ted and I get to show off one of the projects that we've done. As you can see, unlike in the other cabinet where things were just kind of carefully put next to each other, in this one we were actually able to get these archival quality boxes and really separate out the artifacts. So either the ones that were very small, like here, or the ones that were fragile. We were able to carefully pack and then store in these boxes so that they're protected. You know, if someone runs into the cabinet, these little china plates won't just rattle against each other and die.
Yeah, look at those. Jeez.
Yeah. But also, you know, if we need like this for an exhibit, you know, this specific one, we don't have to root through the entire cabinet to try and find a very small thing.
Yes. Which can feel a little overwhelming sometimes.
And it's also not great practice
No.
from a preserving artifacts perspective.
Yes.
So we have been going through, whenever we find drawers like this that really need to be redone, we've been taking the time to redo it all properly.
Yes. Ongoing process.
Yes.
Because we have 45,000
Yes. We have a
objects.
little HMFM
Yeah.
there.
I like that guy.
I have one at home.
Oh, okay. We have one for posterity.
Yes, we do.
That will be carefully cared for future generations. What's that? Oh, like an old Barbie.
I think so, yeah.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool.
Yep, yep.
I like those old metal trucks. I had one of those when I was really little, like 4.
The fun thing about this job, and you know the storage area in particular, is you genuinely never know what you're going to find.
Right.
You know, as Ted said, we have 45,000 artifacts. So even if we have a good idea of what we have, the individual specifics you can't really memorize. So every time you open a cabinet, you just find something really cool.
And we have a pretty broad mandate to preserve Missoula's history, so that's a very wide range
Yes.
of
Yes, it really is.
artifacts.
So here we've got one of our artifact carts. This is the good one. And so this one we can just use when we're down here if we're pulling multiple artifacts for an exhibit, or if we're putting multiple artifacts away, or anytime we need to be moving things around. We can put them on the cart instead of having to carry them back and forth. And that just, it saves time for one, but more importantly, it protects the artifacts. There's a lot less risk of dropping something if it's on the cart, rather than if you're going back and forth carrying it.
Yep. Okay.
So over here we have the other cart, i.e. the rickety one, which as a result is mostly used as a table.
Yes.
And you know how in that drawer back there were all the boxes that we had done? So I'm doing kind of the same process for this cabinet, because as you can see, this cabinet is kind of a little bit of a mess. It's very full with lots of really small things that are really easy to get lost. So like we have a pile of pins, it looks like. You know, things that are all cataloged, we know what they all are, but when you're trying to find them, can be a little complicated.
What's that say from officer Fort Missoula?
Log building something.
Okay.
So what I've been doing, so this is the one I've been working on. This is the side I haven't touched yet. I've been pulling everything out one half at a time, making sure that this foam actually goes all the way around, because you know you can see here, you know, on this drawer it actually doesn't go all the way around. Sorry, I'm making Ted do really awkward angles with the camera.
Cinematography.
Oh yes. And then I'll take all of the artifacts out, you know, make sure that they all have artifact numbers, that none of them are broken, and then put them back in more carefully using boxes or using dividers, you know, just trying to make it neat and also to make it safe. So the artifacts aren't stacked on top of each other.
Yes.
So,
Good practices, standards.
this one as an example, these things are in boxes. The boxes, this box stacked on top of things? I've stacked boxes on top of each other, but because the bottom of this one is stacked on the rim of that one, the artifacts themselves don't have any pressure on them.
Those are old curling irons.
They are. Also done things like build custom supports. Museum work is surprisingly a lot of building things out of cardboard. If you have good DIY skills, this is a great career for you.
Is that feather from a hat?
It looks like a quill.
Oh, a quill. Nice.
This feather actually probably shouldn't be here. I'm still working on a good way to care for it because I don't want it to get ruined by the drawer.
Yeah. It's looking good, though. Let's do a Scorsese type where we kind of follow you.
All right. So we're moving on. We're getting to the end. I guess I could turn around. We're getting to the end of our storage area. And here, this part is much more of a work in progress.
Yeah.
So this part used to be storage for educational props or, like these images that we can use at events, much less for actual artifact storage. But partly because we need more space, and partly because it's not great practice to have artifacts and not artifacts in the same space.
Yes, they don't want you to do that.
Just because the preservation needs are so different. We have been working to get all of the props cleared out of this area, put into more education-friendly areas, and then expand our actual collection storage out this way.
Which we need to.
Yes. So we've done some. This was one of Ted's first big projects when he got here, was to make this second picture storage area, because the first one was full.
We moved this funky shelf here that has the burnt orange carpeting on it. It used to be right here, along here. And it went all the way almost to the wall, and then there's all this other stuff stacked behind there that we moved out and put up a series of shelves here for the 2D works. These are all bubble wrapped. Bubble wrap is not archival, but it's a good intermediary item to protect the framed works. But I got a box of this coroplast that we can use to separate the objects. Like, see all these framed works are just kind of leaning against each other. That's not good at all. So we'll use the coroplast to separate them. And also this particle board stuff on the shelves is not archival, and it off gases, so we can put the chloroplast on that too. Here's some old, there used to be a club in town that did miniature operas. That would be a fun exhibit one of these days.
It really would.
And here's all the records that went along with the miniature operas. So as far as collecting, some people, just to be more specific, what we need for our collection, like I said, we have 45,000 plus objects and we're packed to the gills. But there are certain things that we're still open to collecting.
Yeah, so broadly, our scope is to collect Missoula history, Western Montana history. But because, as Ted said, we are kind of out of space. This is one of 5 storage areas, and they're all full. We're working on renovating more and getting more storage areas up to par. But until that happens, we don't want to put artifacts in an unfit space. We don't want to accept something and then not be able to care for it. So until we're able to care properly for more artifacts, we're really not taking a lot of big donations or donations with lots of stuff. We're looking primarily for either flat material, so photographs, documents, letters, that kind of thing. if you have anything relating to the history of Missoula, the history of Fort Missoula, Ted wants especially photos of old Missoula, not from Higgins Street, which I guess is the only angle you can ever find.
There's a lot of them, yeah. Or looking off of like east down Front Street from Higgins.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those.
So if you have any, actual archival type materials, give us a call. We're not accepting drop-in donations at all, but give us a call, send Ted an email, send me an email if you want. We can chat about it. We can see if your artifacts, match our needs in our collection. The one major exception to the pretty much blanket no artifact, no 3D artifact rule, is things relating directly to the history of Fort Missoula itself. So artifacts relating to the 25th Infantry, to the CCC, to the Alien Detention Center. We especially don't have a lot of artifacts from the Alien Detention Center era. So if you have any of those in your home, or if your family does somewhere else, do let us know. We can definitely either find a space in our current storage area or work with you to help you preserve the artifact until we are equipped to take it. We would definitely love any either artifacts or information, and we're always open to research that you've done. If you know something or if you have a question, definitely get in touch.
Yes, please. Okay, is there anything else? Let's see, we plan on reopening to the public June 1 with limited hours. We'll be closing at 4, and we set aside 10 to noon for vulnerable populations. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what we'll have more specific information, a press release about this, so you can. We want to limit it initially to 10 people in the museum at a time because we have kind of small, cramped spaces. We'll have hand sanitizer everywhere, and we just want to be really safe and cautious at this time because we care about you. We care about each other.
Yeah.
And we respect each other, and so we'll be ready for you. Anything else?
I believe that's just about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. We will keep checking back. Or send us an email, or a Facebook message, or any of the other ways that you normally get in contact with us, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay. Thanks, Anne. Great job.
Thanks, Ted.
And thanks, everyone. Have a good day and stay safe.